Hi, I'm Sung Ray.
I'm something else.
Here at Black Girl Soul, a podcast where we discuss the Asian dramas we love from a black female perspective. We are looking to be entertained, to learn about other cultures, and share our passion for these shows. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. This is Black Girl Soul. I am something else with
Song Gray.
Today, we are talking about the final episode, episode 8 of Pachinko. And we have our special guest, our resident reader, Natasha.
Hello, everyone.
So, Sungray, take it away with that recap.
All right. So in episode 8, the final episode of season 1, we first must whoop, 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 we found out that there will be more seasons officially, so I'm so grateful for that. But this is our final episode of season 1. In this one, we are finding out about Sunja's second son. She is having I'm going to probably tear this word up, so please forgive me in advance, but a chetto for the baby, which is a first birthday party. And we're getting to see that in action, and we're also learning and getting to know Noah as he's, the person he is, who he is, how he functions within the family as a 7-year-old. We're learning about Isak and his dual life. We're learning about how Sonja takes up and does what she needs to do to continue on handling her business for her children and herself. We also get to see Noah with his father Hansu, and I think that's Solomon. Solomon says goodbye to Hana in this episode, and we also kind of see his ending results. So all of that is basically episode 8, unless I've missed anything. You guys think anything I missed?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So, we're going to now spoil the hell out of this. What are your first observations?
Well, the episode starts out with Noah at school, and he's walking with the friend. And I thought, oh, they're so cute. Oh, Noah's so cute. That was the first thing that hit me. And then he's talking to his friend about, sticking up for himself and, their troubles of being picked on by the Japanese kids. And I like to see Noah. I like seeing his personality come out. And then I liked seeing him with his dad and their relationship, which made the following scene that much more heart-wrenching. But that was the first thing that hit me, was like seeing a cute little Noah and his personality.
And I agree. I think for me, that was exactly what I picked up on, was getting to meet Noah, getting to see him function, and kind of seeing how he's feisty. He has a side to him that, like you said, is telling his friend, hey, you got to stick up for yourself. Don't back down. You can't let them, and, well, you didn't something either. He said, yeah, because you didn't fight. This is your fight. I was helping you out. So I liked his personality. I did.
Yeah, he gave me all kinds of feisty, and you could see that he was just this well-loved kid. The fact that the father is walking him home and they have that routine between them, and then the father is convincing him to act right at his little brother's 1-year-old birthday party, and he was like, are you sure I had my own birthday party? Like, are you sure it went down the way you said it went down? I was like, okay, Noah, we are getting everything about you right here, right now. And so for this episode, I must say, it's like, compared to the beginning of the season, it kind of was like dwindling down. Like, I like this episode. It was edifying. It explained some things. But ever since 7, we're getting this kind of slowed down feeling. I guess because they're going to ramp it back up for season 2. What do you all think?
I wonder too if it's slowing down because they want to try to show us more. That's just coming off the top of my head right now. Because when I was watching it, I was thinking, oh, there's Noah, and there's so much more to Noah that we could know and see. And like in the book, it was like a big thing to how he prepared for school each day, and he wanted his hair to be just perfect, and he wanted to make sure that even before the scene with him in Koh Hansu in the show, he wanted to be his best, be the best kid in class over everybody else. And so I don't know if the show is just trying to pack too much, and so it seems like it's slowing down maybe into this episode, because I feel like they left a lot out.
And that's exactly what I was getting ready to say. I feel like personally, they gave us a big bunch in the first couple of episodes on purpose because they needed to hook you in, get you in, want to see who's who, find out what's going on. But now we're slowing down to actually get to know the characters. Because again, one of the things I keep noting that Natasha has shared with us about the book is that, for instance, we learned so much more about Koh Hansu than what they gave us. Now, some of the stuff they gave us, no, it wasn't in the book, but still, they took an entire episode to walk us through his life and some of the stuff that he dealt with. In this episode, like you said, we're getting to know who Noah is as a person. We hear about him in his adult life. We don't know what happened to him and why he's not being shown yet, but we hear about his, how the Mozazu made a comment about him as an adult about how he didn't want Solomon to turn out like Noah. But in any case, I'm just realizing, like, I think they're slowed down on purpose so that now we can actually fan out and get to know who these people are, what their characters are, and the information about them. That's just my take.
Okay. I think there is a place where you can't have very dramatic, shocking bits constantly. And, you know, these characters do have to settle. So we all agree.
I
Oh,
was
sure.
also going to add, because I kind of agree with you. I feel like in my head, because it was the last season, even though we know season 2 is coming, in my head, I kind of wondered how come they didn't, like give you that thing that's going to draw you back in next. You get me?
I think
It's almost like season 2 is going to start tomorrow and we're going to keep moving. But go ahead.
right. And see, that's what I don't know. Like, unless y'all know, I don't know when their season 2 is going to hit. Sometimes they don't tell you right away. They just pull you on a string for months and then you find out, bam, it's going to be in 2 months. You know, who knows? But yeah, I agree with you. One of the other things I noticed was the theme song in the intro was
Yes,
different.
Yeah,
definitely.
it
I
was.
paid attention to that too.
And so my question to you guys, because you all may have better ears for music than I do, it gave me 80s, but it kind of didn't. And mind you, it may be the sensibility of their music because either Korean or Japanese. You know how, like in America, when we hear certain songs, we know it's from the 70s, we know it's from the 80s. I don't have that same sensibility with their music. I just felt like, okay, it's not current. I just couldn't figure out what that
But it's the
sound
same
was.
song. But it's the same song.
It is, but like it's like a different version of the same song, right?
Oh, you're meaning like when did they record it?
No, I'm meaning like the style of it. It was the
Oh,
same words, the same song, but it was like a different style. So I
yeah.
And
didn't.
so I
I
saw
don't know
that, but
either.
I didn't have that kind of take from it. My take simply was it was a new introduction on the very last episode, which I found quite interesting that if this is the last episode of the season, why did they change the music and some of the feel to the intro at the very end? And that was all I took from it. I didn't really delve into I hear what you're saying and I do 100% agree, but I don't know time frame, if that was an 80s sound, a 70s sound, I don't know, but I just paid attention to the fact that wow, it's the last season or last episode of the season, and these are the kind of changes they made, which I found interesting.
Right. And
The sound to me is like late 70s, but I don't know. I've never looked up the song to see, when it was actually recorded. But it sounds 70s like, or like maybe early 80s.
yeah, I just didn't have anything. I was just like, oh, okay, look at y'all doing something different. And I love that either you, Natasha, or you, Sung Ray, pointed out in episode 7, they didn't have the intro at all. So the intro means something. Maybe it's just another artistic stylation. Is that a word? I don't know. But you know, a style choice just to enhance or add richness to the show. But
Yeah.
then I just wonder, okay, does this mean something too?
We should look into, I mean, I don't know, maybe I can look into the actual song and the lyrics too, because I mean, just the live for today part when the show is going into the past a lot. I wonder what the significance of the song is on its own, like the lyrics of it. So I'll have to look it up and see.
Okay, and then one of my other observations, and then I can turn it over to you guys because, you know, we all have our observations in our notes, was the juxtaposition of Hannah's disease of the blood with the kind of scenes where they talk about the Beck family's unpatriotic disease of the blood. So you see Hannah being sick with AIDS, and then they splice in that Isak has been arrested, and not just that he is arrested for being unpatriotic, right? Because clearly he's a union organizer in some fashion. Big up to him. But also that there are ramifications for the family when Yosef's supervisor finds out that Isak was arrested for being unpatriotic. He loses his job. And so it is considered a fault of their family, like because they are blood. And he even says blood, I believe. Because of that, it is then a disease of the blood. Did you all notice that similarity, or what did you all think in general about everything that went down?
I didn't really notice the similarity. I mean, I see it now that you're bringing it up, and I guess that's like a poetic, artistic connection. And I can see how Isak, his involvement having consequences on his brother's job. Yeah, I thought that was unfortunate, and that blood connection and how they saw it. Ugh, that was rough. I don't know how Hana's blood disease I guess it puts shame on her. It puts shame on her family and affects her family. I don't know what kind of consequences it's going to have on her family after the fact, but it almost seems like Isak's stain on the blood of their family is a little bit more consequential to the rest of the family than what Hana is going through. So I don't know. I don't know what they meant. I would like to have been in their writer's room to hear what their discussion was and what they were thinking when they, and if they meant to put that together like that.
I think for me, like I too noticed it, not noticed it in the way that something else noticed it, but noticed it now that she's putting it there. I think for me personally, I did find that the brother losing his job because of Isak's choices was like terrible. That really kind of hurt my feelings, and it was unfortunate. I'm kind of shocked though that they didn't do more to Sunja, seeing they found her in the organizer's house. Like I assumed she was gonna get locked up too because they kept asking her what does she know, and yes, she found out that day, but still, it was just kind of like, but we found you in these people's house. How you gonna say you didn't know them?
Yeah.
So all of that was just a little, like I tripped off of that. And then as far as Hana, I think the only thing for her that I noticed was when the nurse did something and then she said to her, "You can't catch it by being close to me." And I was thinking to myself, where'd that come from? Like all this time, these people have been in there helping you. Yes, you were in this separate room by yourself, but it was just kind of a weird throw in. Like it didn't seem to match for me. So that was the only other thing I noticed about Hana with her dealing with the AIDS.
I thought
What?
that too. Go ahead, something
Oh
else.
no, I was just gonna say I did notice that, but then Hannah has always struck me as a bit rash and bitchy anyway, and I think that her issue was that I think she said something about you're not gonna catch it by looking at me, and it wasn't, I don't think, about the health wise of it all. I felt that she wanted to be seen and she was misinterpreting the woman not looking at her as basically saying, you're not worth looking at. But it may have been cultural, it may have been true. But then soon after, the woman looks her deeply in her eyes when she answers her. So she was caring, she was a good nurse. It was Hannah being Hannah.
That's what I think too. Hannah was being Hannah, and in Hannah's past, she was the pretty girl, the popular girl, the charismatic girl that people wanted to be around and see. So coming to this part of her life, it's just like now she's the opposite, or that's how she feels. She's the opposite, and she can't. It's hard to deal with. Plus, she's dying. So, but yeah, she's over the top. I was gonna say something, but I can't remember now. Oh, I know. I was gonna say that, and this happens later in the episode when Hans is walking with Noah from school. The way and this is where I find discrepancy with how they're trying to portray Koh Hansu in the show as opposed to what I felt like he was portrayed like in the book. But in the show, when he's walking with Noah and he's making these comments about the dad, it's almost like Koh Hansu set Isak up And so when Sunja was at the organizer's house, it's same there. It's like, did Koh Hansu have something to do with
I
this?
promise you, I wondered the same thing myself. I was trying to figure out only because when she went to the church and she's talking to the man at the church, he said someone had to have called him by name because they came and called his name. So someone called him out. It wasn't even like they just said, oh, there's some agitators over there and they came over searching for some agitators. No, they came specifically looking for him. So he told her, be careful. And that whole thing made me wonder who else would have put him out there like that but Koh Hansu? Yes, go ahead.
Yes. And so then that pulls on my memory, my horrible memory. Like, I don't remember this happening this way in the book. Why are they trying to, portray my Koh Hansu like this again? Like, they're making him really cold hearted now. He's putting Isak in jail. I don't remember this, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I can
Ma'am.
admit that I'm still kind of naive to certain people's motives and things, and maybe it went over my head in the book, but I truly do not remember Koh Hansu even hinting at doing this to Isak. And
Even
I don't
if he didn't, though, I am going to say, because I took notes on this, they put it out here pretty bad for him and his relationship with Isak and the family. Because when he is walking with Noah, he says to Noah, tomorrow he's talking to him about the way to get to school, whatever, 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 and he's spitting game, giving him knowledge and whatever, whatever. But he tells him tomorrow take the shorter route, and I had to put this in in quotes and actually read the screen, and it says only fools would choose otherwise. So that means he's calling Isak a fool. Then he turns around and says, Noah, don't live like a fool. I'm like, damn, really? You just gonna call his daddy a fool and then tell him don't live like his daddy? Like, wow, okay, because he doesn't know who you are. He doesn't know you're his real father. But yeah, that I don't know.
yeah, it just made him look like a supervillain to me, even though he was trying to be caring to his son and talking to his son and all of that. It just made him look like a supervillain. I hated that.
So, number one, Natasha is ride or die for Koh Hansu. If y'all didn't know, she is going to fight y'all if you come for Koh Hansu and blame him for stuff that he should not be blamed for. We know that now. We don't want no hands from Natasha. Anyone in the comments, don't come for Koh Hansu. That's number one. Number two, Number two, I didn't at first I wanted to link Koh Hansu, but I don't want to make him this omnipotent boogeyman where he's always involved in their lives somehow. Sometimes it's just them. And dude is a full, complete union organizer in Japan as a Korean. Somebody was going to drop the dime on him. Somebody was going to come for him at some point. Just because. Maybe they're trying to save themselves, something. So I did not put that on Koh Hansu. But of course, Koh Hansu knows what's going on with the family. He keeps tabs. But it's very interesting how you see Noah at his level, and then you almost see this shining light almost for 2 seconds. It's not like a huge thing. And then Koh Hansu is next to him all in white, like looking dapper, looking like he looks. Mm.
Ma'am, yes, okay.
Okay. But he looks in the middle of all that dankness and all that, not even dusty. That place isn't dusty. It's muddy to the rooftops, right? He's looking fresh and clean. Okay.
Yeah,
And
now
then he's
that was
dropping
to
like this.
me obvious because I paid attention to the scene. I watched it like 3 or 4 times because, like I told you, I wanted to quote what he said specific. Everybody else had on dark colors, grays. Everybody, not some of them. Everybody else. He was the only person that had white on in that entire scene. So that was all on purpose.
Right. I mean, I was worried about his hems, like the hem of his pants, because,
Yeah.
Girl, look,
but
when he kneeled down to talk to the boy, I said, I wonder if he fell in any of those takes.
any backup suits because he had a style. He always wore white. Like I knew when he showed up, he kind of like came in almost on a wave, and he was like right next to Noah, and so I can see how he looks like a powerful figure to a young 7 year old. So I could see how the 7 year old listened to him, and unless there were like many child molesters running around the Korean ghettos, he was going to feel relatively safe with the adult walking with him, especially since the adult knows about his life, knows his name, like knows basic stuff about him, and seems to be imparting wisdom to him. Noah's used to listening to older people. Except for his younger brother, he lives in a world of older people, right? In a world of adults. So I could see how that conversation went down. Sungray, I agree with you about how he was throwing Isak under the bus, train, and planes. Okay, like why are you calling that boy's daddy a fool and then doubling and tripling down on it? It was rude. It was super rude. But I also feel like this is the making of whomever Noah is going to be in the future, because we don't know if Isak is going to be back in the picture at some point, or he's sickly, right? We don't know if he's in a dying jail. I don't now. Natasha knows these things, but we don't know these things, and so we don't know how transformative it was for Noah to lose his father that way, and then basically be told in so many words, you need to be the best of the best, and you need to be strong, and you need to not have that happen to you again. We don't know how that affects him.
Yeah, and I know what happened in the book, but now I can't really say that I know, because it seems like a lot of things have changed, and I don't know what they're going to do with Isak in the show. Um, because I don't and hopefully some of your listeners will comment after the fact on your blog if they read the book, if they remember why Isak was arrested in the book, because I don't remember it being for political reasons. I thought it was for religious reasons. And that's a little different, because it makes I don't know that he'd be seen as weaker for standing up for religious beliefs as opposed to political beliefs, but maybe it would be more perceived as more dangerous to stand up for political beliefs at that time. I just don't remember him standing up for like union, trying to unionize the workers or anything. The other thing that stood out to me when Koh Hansu was walking with Noah, he said he threw some other shade at Isak. Oh, it was just on the tip of my tongue, and I just lost it. And I don't know. I'm not appreciating it. And I feel like Noah, being who Noah is, it seems like he would have had more questions too. Like he just seemed kind of comfortable with this stranger who's so
Okay.
fresh and so clean in the street, walking up next to him. He didn't go home and tell, "Hey, mom, this guy walked me home and told me some stuff." Like he was just kind of quiet
And
about it.
he gave him something because at the end
Oh,
he
that's
handed him
right.
that wrapped up
The wa-
piece of whatever. And I'm assuming, based upon the fact that Sunja had that watch again at the end and gave it to Solomon,
Oh, that's
that's
right.
what he gave him, that watch.
Yes. Yes. And Sunjai, like, does he show it to Sunjai? Like, I don't remember any of this in the book. So I'm confused. And I'm wondering how this is going to play out with that, too. But he said something else to throw some shade at Isak. I'll have to, when I remember it, I'll bring it back up.
Well, I'll say this. Yes, it was very like heavy and important to me that he gave him the watch, but then it was interesting because maybe not right before, but in a scene before the walk, let's call it the walk, Sanjay gives the watch to Solomon. And I was like, Sanjay, how you get that watch back? I was like, how'd that happen? So,
Yeah, me
we,
too.
right. So we don't know what Isak's conversation was with Sanjay after the walk, right? We don't know the scene where he gave it to her, but he's a kid.
Isaac
If
or Noah?
not Isak, I'm sorry, Noah. My bad. We don't know the conversation that Noah has with Sunja after he gets home and he hands her that watch. He's a kid. He's not going to necessarily keep that thing hidden, or at least not keep it for long before she finds out. Because the minute she sees that, she's going to know that he has dealt with um,
Kohan too, exactly.
right, right. So that may be Koh Hansu's way of saying, I'm watching over your family too.
I believe
Like, not
definitely it
like,
was. Oh my gosh, yes. That is definite code for, because he knows this child is not gonna keep the watch. What is he gonna do with it? He knows eventually it's gonna get back to Sunjin. When it does, it's gonna be, oh crap, your daddy has approached you.
And so
right.
then that makes me think, like, what else are they going to change in the show? Because it didn't go down like that. And so I'm wondering. in the book he reveals himself in a different way, and I'm wondering if they're still going to incorporate that in the show, or if this is just a total departure and change and where they're taking it. And so I'm confused.
Okay, Natasha, normally I'm like, don't give spoilers. Like, we can talk offline, but can you spoil this at least? Like, how in the book, how does he reveal himself to Noah?
I can't. It's too big of a spoiler. I'll have to tell you offline.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and I'm gonna pause to say this though. I have deduced, just based upon different readings, things I'm seeing, and listening to other people who've read the book as well, that they are not sticking to the book. They have done something completely different. And I think that may be why the author who wrote the book departed from the show, is because they didn't stay in line with what she had already written. They started delving off. And I'm not sure like how much delving we're doing, but they're doing enough that, yeah, they doing their own thing. Yesterday, this is where they started, this is where they began, but it seems like they're doing their own thing. That's just my
Yes,
take.
and yeah, so now I'm questioning future seasons. Not that I don't want to see them. I do want to see them. And the show, I think, is a good show apart from the book being a good book. I'm just curious as to how much they're going to change. Like, are we going to have to see more of, a 20-something-year-old Solomon? Because I think I'm done with him. Like, I think we're done with his 20-year-old story. Like, we're going to go
We
back to
need
his
to
younger.
be.
So I'm curious as to, like, all of that too. Like, how much are they going to depart from the book? Are we totally separated now? I'm
You
going
know
to
what?
get
Oh, no, go on, Natasha.
I was just gonna say real quick that I'm gonna get the book. When I read the book for book club, I checked it out at the library, but I'm gonna actually get the book so that whenever the future seasons come out, I'll at least have something to refer back to and jog my memory, because I've been forgetting a lot and getting it mixed up with what's going on in the show.
Right. I agree with both of you, especially you, Sung Ray. I do think that as time went on, and I can understand some artistic changes because you cannot have everything in a book on a show, and they have to make some, they have to build in some shortcuts. Totally understand that. But even when I've seen little specials from like, and one of them is the, who's the sunshine in your life or whatever, when we talk about that eventually. But even then, and maybe another special little clip or something, they focus on the screenwriter. They don't focus on the writer of the book, right? I didn't see anything where they were like had the writer of the book talking. I've seen her in other places for some reason, but not in those little clips. And I wonder if it's because she was like, you all are severely bastardizing my book. And and I am
Yeah,
done with you, and I rebuke you in the name of all the love that I have for this book.
I wonder how
So
that works. Like, does she still get paid, or did they maybe just pay a set fee to have the rights to do what they want? Like, I'm curious because it just seems like they must have had a real big falling out for her to just say, I can't work with you, unless it was something else, like something personal in her life where she just couldn't do it or didn't have the time to do it.
who knows? That is great gossip to figure out. I
I
mean,
know. I When I saw the landowner and this creepy dude on the street looking at her, after Solomon
Was that dude
proposed.
Solomon? Because it kind of looked like Solomon with a mustache.
I don't know if it was Solomon, but I know that it was, he proposed some idea to get this woman's land and do what you have to do to get it, type of thing. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that
No,
departure. I'm wondering where that's going to
because
go.
it made me think about when you told us. I had listened to an old episode we did it, and it made me think about when you told us that his father sent someone in the book. His father
right.
sent someone, and then after he sent someone, she wound up dead. So that's what made me go, "What is this? Are they trying to like return back to where the book was? Like, what are we doing? This is confusing." But yeah,
Yeah,
Exactly, Sungray. That's what I thought too. I thought, oh, okay, this is how they're like flowing back to and cleaning that up, that this woman does die in the end, right? Like this is it gets to that point. But then Natasha told us then they decided not to do the deal at all. They're departing, and it's unfortunate because they're painting Solomon like into this asshole. Because the way Natasha described it, it was an unfortunate thing. Like he asked for that, but maybe he didn't know. That's what I did in my head. Maybe he didn't know that that would be the result. But like in this version for the show, it looks like he is like, do that thing that you have to do to get that land, and then we'll make our own deal. I'm like, okay, Solomon, when you had that conversation with Hana, she was just telling you to fight the good fight, not to be a complete asshole.
Uh-uh. So I took from that because I hear you, yes, but I also took from that I found it to be the weirdest thing ever. And this is why I'm gonna say that. So I had some parallels again, and my parallels were that as he's talking to Hana, and Hana is telling him, fuck them, Solomon, they never care for us. So, go out there and get what you're supposed to get. But then it also was the same concept of, in my mind, we're dealing with young Sunja learning that Isak is a freedom fighter and that he is dealing with Japanese dissidents as well during this colonial rule period. So I find it interesting because Hana is Japanese. I find it interesting that I see this phenomena again that they're making this. It's kind of like when you're dealing with allies and you have allies who are ready to speak ill of a problem that they are inherently part of. So that was where I was like, okay, Hana and the Japanese dissidents are kind of the same in my mind. Like, I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird take that they were showing me.
Yeah, this episode, they doing some stuff. I didn't see that parallel, so that's interesting to think about. Like, even after the show or the episode ends, sometimes it comes back to me and I'm thinking about various things. So that's going to be one of them because that kind of comparison is interesting. Along the same lines of what you're talking about and those scenes, what I noticed was that Sunja didn't know not only her husband, but she doesn't know Noah, and now she won't know Solomon. Like she won't know what they're doing because the older Sunja says at one point, just because we love them doesn't mean we know them. And I think that's happening to her over and over again. I think she's surprised by her husband's behavior and what he's been doing. And he never really gives her a chance to partner with him, right? When he's doing all of this crazy stuff and he's trying to protect her, but she has no idea. And then with her son Noah, I feel because clearly in the future they are split apart, they don't have a close relationship. I feel like she won't know Noah. And now, because of how Solomon is moving, like he's moving counter to where she would naturally expect him to go, especially with that older lady, the older Korean lady. I do feel that then she won't know Solomon. Three men, different generations in her life, she loves but won't know.
And I
Yeah.
love that because you're correct. I felt the exact same way because with Solomon, and the way he's moving, one of the notes I took was that he seems to be clueless on how to really move into the bigger picture of the grand scheme of things. And that his ploy for Colton Farms or whatever it is this that he's trying to grasp to get this lady's land made him seem very weak and desperate to me because of how he's doing it and what he's choosing to do to get to it. And in that, it's almost like if Sanjay was standing up to Mazazu and saying, "Oh, I won't let Solomon go this way. I won't let him fall like the way of Noah." Yeah, I think she's already missed it. He's on his way.
Well, she gives him the watch to hopefully give him some sort of luck, and I wonder if it's going to work, being that her mother went to the shaman at the beginning of the show, and what they did for her worked for the mom, and Sunja was born. So I'm wondering if that's going to help at all with that watch. Like, are they going to give it that kind of power in the show? I mean, that's a total departure from the book, but I'm wondering if that's going to help at all.
I will say it was interesting that she gave Koh Hansu's watch though.
Yeah.
I mean, of all the things to give him, it's almost like that's the strongest talisman that she could come up with. And it's Koh Hansu's watch. I'm
Yeah.
like,
I wonder how much her family knows about that watch, like her sons and her grandson. Like, if this watch is just a big mystery to them. That watch has lasted a long time.
right.
There was a scene. This is kind of off the subject, but it stuck out to me, and it's on my in my notes. In the hospital with Hana, um, she's talking to Solomon, and she says, "Take care of my mom," and that was kind of weird to me. Like that kind of seemed kind of off. Like, what does she mean? Take care of her mom? Like her mom has a man. How does she want Solomon to take care of her mom? Does that just mean look, check in? I don't know what that meant. I was confused by that. And the fact that Hana just doesn't seem like she cares about anybody, at least not on the surface. She doesn't seem to care about anybody. Did anybody notice that and have any reaction to that? Because it was totally confusing to me.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, again, back to, I think someone mentioned it earlier, it may have been you. Hannah's just selfish. And in her selfishness, I don't know, I feel like her whole life, based upon how this show has presented her, her whole life was all about her doing what she wanted to do, how she wanted to do it. It ended poorly, and she's just, ending off with because she even had to ask, where's Solomon, when they told her they were going to give her, I guess they injected her with something to cause the death to happen quicker. I don't know. That was a weird thing too. But she asked for him. Where's Solomon? Where's Solomon? He's not here. Where's Solomon? You got your mother right there. You got Solomon's grandma and dad there, but you had your quote unquote family to per se. But she was looking for him. Then when he did finally show up, he came and it was with this crazy idea that I didn't catch it first until after we get to the top of the roof and he says Hawaii. So I'm like, okay, he's trying to give her a sense of you're not gonna have to die in this room, but still, I don't know. The whole thing was just kind
Yeah.
of
And
weird.
he like asked for help in providing this to her, and I didn't know what kind of help
Right.
this gangster dude provided for him to be able, maybe he had some ties at the hospital, let them take her out of the room. I was confused.
It
It was
was
really confusing to me.
It
yeah.
made sense to me. It made sense to me that she asked him to take care of the mother. I mean, one of the conversations she had with Solomon was about her regrets and how she thought she was high flying and things were going to be completely different, right? Like when she talked about Hawaii, she talked about how
But why did she
she didn't
ask
think.
Solomon to take care of her mom? I mean,
Well,
she could.
let me explain. Let me explain.
Okay.
I think she had, like when she talked about Hawaii, she thought her life would be different, and Solomon is the guy who got away. Solomon apologized to her for leaving her behind. We always think about how she controlled and dominated Solomon, but I think she loved Solomon in her fashion. I understand that I don't know the book. I'm going completely based on the bits I have and making stuff up. But I think Hannah was fast. I think she was in precarious circumstances with her mother and her mom, like having a Korean boyfriend and everything that went with that stigma. She may have been beautiful, but that's all she had when she was out in the streets. And I think she lived fast and loose. And maybe in the back of her mind, she always thought the things that she was doing were going to like give her a step up and make her happy. There's nothing that says that Hannah thought that she wouldn't take care of her mom one day. Like she wouldn't be there to like make her mother proud or have her back. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
her mom may have a boyfriend that she's always had for years. They never got married. They've been together forever. And she looks at Solomon, who is her contemporary, who could arguably be the her first love and maybe the love of her life. And she asked him to take care of her mom. Plenty of people on death's door are like, hey, take care of each other, or think about who they trust can make sure that the person they love is all right. Solomon is young. Anything could happen. I can see her going, hey, you're my best friend. Can you look out for my mom? That
Mm-hmm.
was like the one time that you see Hannah not being caustic, not being bitchy or rude. She loves her mother secretly down there. She's human.
Yeah.
So that's what she expresses to him, and everything after that is just trying to make her comfortable. I mean, there has to be some grace in death, right? There has to be some grace in dying. And she's stretched it to the very end because she was a horrible patient. She wasn't a virtuous dying AIDS patient, right? She wasn't the poster child for, oh, it's a shame we're going to lose this great person. No, she was not that. But I think she loved the way that she could.
Yeah. I guess she's loving the way that she loves, but I never saw her as loving Solomon. I just felt like Solomon made her feel like she was a rock star. Like he idolized her. She's a bit older than him. When he was younger and they really first started like hanging out, it was like he was in awe of her and she liked having that type of attention and she fed off of that, but it wasn't really him. She just knew that he would do what she wanted and that she could kind of drag him around and be her puppet, and she loved that. But I don't know if she really I never got the feeling that she really loved him.
And maybe she didn't, but what she loved was the adoration.
Right.
And here at the final time of her life, this is what she gets. She still has his adoration. That is as close to who she used to be as she's going to get. There's one person who is treating her the way that she used to be treated, because trust and
Right.
believe, nobody else is. Everybody is looking at her as a pariah and untouchable. She's hidden away in a room closet to die.
Yes, and I feel like that's what she's clinging on to. I just don't know. So when we talk about her asking him to take care of her mom, I don't know why she's asking him. I know why she's wanting to care for her mom or wanting her mom to be taken care of, because she loves her mom deep down after all the crap that, Hana has done. But I don't know why she's asking Solomon. I guess she has no one else to ask, or she has no one else to show like, hey, I'm kind of still I'm a good person deep down. Like I care. I don't know. That's what doesn't make sense to me. And eh, yeah, I don't know. That's all I have to say about it.
I did want to point out that it was interesting, just as a thing that happens to kids, that Noah was a translating fool. Like,
Yeah, he was. Poor kid.
right? He was like throwing it back and forth. I was like, dude, I mean,
Of some
as a
heavy
young,
stuff too.
uh, exactly, he's exposed to so much. Like, there's this case, and I don't know, I won't know until the next season. We all won't know, but like, just how much he has to be an adult and how that affects him, whether Isak comes back or not. Like, he, as the young, not the youngest child who has no understanding, but like the 7-year old and older, what he experiences, and the fact that he's translating for his mother. He's translating words for another adult.
I think if we get a little bit further, like step a little bit before that, if you pay attention from the moment when they were at the house and he comes in to tell her, Dad, I waited an hour, he hadn't come to pick me up. Oh, your dad never showed up. And he's like, no. So they go off to the place. When they get to the church, something happened there. He has to like kind of drag her, like, come on, to go to the next space. They get there, she gets stuck on something again. Come on, mom, let's go. So like I paid attention to, he was leading all along. He was leading her to, man, I don't know what you keep getting stuck for. I don't know why you keep stopping and going off into your deep thoughts. We don't have time for your deep thoughts right now. We got to go handle this business. And in that, then he started with the translation. So I automatically picked up, because of how Sunja, I don't know if it was her, how she felt about herself, or I don't know. Is it because she doesn't understand the language and the culture or what? But that because he was already, he grew up in it. He speaks Japanese. He's part of the culture in the sense that he, has to go to school with the children and deal with people. He was already a quick study. And that was one of the things I put in my notes, is that he was wise beyond his years. I feel like he was the best of Sunja. Like when Sunja was a kid, remember how she maneuvered in the marketplace and was able to talk people down when it came to bartering, when it came to prices and whatnot. And then if you think about Koh Hansu and how he functions, so I'm like, oh, Noah's the best of the two of them. He's got both of their brains, and he's a quick study. He picks up fast. You don't have to give him stuff over and over. He gets it. So I don't know. That was just my take watching their whole interaction.
I totally agree with you. I didn't see some of that. I remember the pulling, like him pulling her along, but I didn't link it completely. So thank you for that, because you're completely right.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that was their way of giving us some of the character of Noah from the book, because he's a huge part of the book. He's one of my favorite characters in the book, and it really shows his personality as a child and how disciplined he was and how such of a, I guess, like a responsible old soul in a little kid's body.
Yes,
So I
yes.
really appreciated that they were trying to show that. I mean, it's too bad that we don't have the time. The show doesn't have the time to give us all the life of Noah, but yeah, they definitely showed that and same thing with his friend when he's trying to give advice to his friend. He's like, they're the same age, but he's the stronger one. He has
Yes,
more, seems like more
exactly.
wisdom.
Because again, he was telling that friend, he said, well, you stop fighting. He's like, because it's your battle. You got to do your part, and when you do your part, I help you out. But I'm not fighting for you. Like, it made me laugh because I'm going, this little boy spitting game early on.
He just like his daddy, huh?
Yeah,
But but no, I agree with both of you. I do wish, based on what Natasha said about the book, that they had done a scene like tiny of him getting ready for school, right? Like that would have been interesting to see him kind of making sure his hair, making sure his clothing is just so, and then having to go off. I think that would have been helpful, but we got what we could get so far. I mean, maybe we're just thirsty for more story.
To be honest, now that you have said what you just said, and now that I'm linking what Natasha said, maybe that is our to draw you back in for next go round, because we did just meet Noah.
Yep.
We did just get to see him in action. So maybe when we get into season two, that's where they start us off with more Noah. I don't know.
I sure hope so. I sure hope so, because I mean, in the book, you see Noah as a kid going through school. You see Noah go to college. I mean, you see all kinds of stuff in Noah's life. I'm not sure they're going to get into all of it, but he's a big part of the book. And I hope that this introduction was just saying, hey, you're going to see more Noah in the next season or the next few seasons.
No, I definitely think. I think the whole episode was just like a big cliffhanger because you're getting Noah, you're getting what's going to happen with Isak, and what's going to happen with that whole family because I mean, chick is
Yeah,
having to
brother lost
sell.
his job.
Right, she's out there having to slang kimchi to get
Right.
by. Like
Yep.
And
so.
that was even funny because the sister in law is telling her again, like, oh, I don't know if you should be doing this. And she's like, well, no, I'm going to do this because, shoot, I got to do something. He
Yeah.
comes out to tell her again, no, I'm the man. I'm going to take care of things. And she's like, well, let me help you, shit. Why, you ain't got no job. Let me help you do something because we have
Yes.
nothing coming in. It's
Uh,
five
Exactly.
of us in this house. Nothing's coming in. We got to do something.
Exactly.
did
And it's like, I don't have time for you to be the big bag, strong, unemployed man right now. Okay, I can make some kimchi. Let me do what I can do.
did we talk about this in a previous, maybe last episode? We talked about just like what the emasculating of men can do to a society. Because yeah, I think we did talk about it because we were talking about how these guys. Someone mentioned guys going home to beat their wives. It's like the emasculation of these guys in this oppressive society. I mean, it can cause long-lasting damage to a family.
Yeah, yeah.
Not just a
Okay.
family, a
True,
community,
true, true.
a culture of people. Like, look at Black culture in America.
Yeah,
True,
very true.
true.
And
I'm,
so,
I'm,
unless you all have something before the last bit,
I
I
did
was gonna
one
say,
quick
okay, go on.
something I just wanted to pull back to. So at the very beginning, again, we're leaving with Isak and Noah walking home from school, and they're talking about the Chikdo, which is that first birthday party. In the process of grabbing that first item, that's the Dojabi. So what did Noah say he pulled? What did they say Noah pulled? Do you guys remember? Because each item has a specific meaning. And so I figured they took the time to tell us that not just for the history, but maybe that will help us to understand
I
better
was gonna
Noah. Did
I was gonna ask
anybody?
you the significance. He pulled the red
Yep.
yarn. That's what they said. And he was saying, oh,
Uh,
I wish I had pulled the bow and arrow, but he pulled the red yarn, and he
okay,
wanted.
so
Do we know
I do.
what
I have
Mozazu
some.
pulled?
So I know that it says the bow and arrow represents a person with a career in the military. Money represents a person who will be rich. On the table, we saw a book. A book is for a famous scholar or to become a famous scholar. A brush is a person who will become a famous author. The red and white silk plait is for long life. So if you pull that, that's for long life. Or if it's plaited together, it's to become a good husband or a wife. A scroll is a person with a long and healthy life. So you said he pulled just the red thread.
That's what he said. I mean, when I saw the table, I saw the red and white together. But when he was talking to his
Right.
dad, he said he pulled red yarn.
So again, the thread, based upon somebody sharing with me on Twitter, thread really means having a long life.
Do you know what Mozazu pulled at the end? I couldn't tell if they were trying to show us what he pulled because they showed the table, but nothing really stood out like as he selected it.
Girl, no, I think purposefully they didn't show us what he pulled because I was trying to see that
Okay.
too, and I went back. Like I said, I went back a few times because that scene really interested me because I was like, oh, I've seen this before, but I didn't realize it had such meaning. So I started doing some research and stopped the show, went through my research, came back, watched again, went and did some more research, came back and watched again. So like I looked at that scene more than once, and they never ever let us see what did Mazazu pull.
Okay. I'm curious. I mean,
I
Mozazu's doing well in his life right now. I mean, fairly well.
Yeah, he must have
My
pulled
tail
money.
said money, right? That's what I was like. He probably pulled the money.
Well, if Noah pulled long life, and I
I'm
don't know
leaving
how it's
that
gonna happen
alone.
then.
We not
Yeah.
gonna talk about that because I read some stuff, so we'll just leave that alone. So the very last bit of the episode went back to, like, they decided to do a homage to the women like Sunja and the women of Korea who stayed in Japan after most of them, I think they said something like 1.8 million or some, almost 2 million or something, went from Korea to Japan, but then the large majority of them went back to Korea afterwards. But like something like 600,000 people stayed in Japan, and they spoke to some of the women who did. And so I thought we could discuss them before we talk about the whole, who is Sunja in your life, that whole thing.
Yeah, I
Good.
thought those stories were very interesting.
I thought we were gonna get more of their stories. I feel like we didn't really get their stories. I liked the information, the typed information about how many people actually came as labor or how many people were brought by Japanese as laborers, how many people stayed, how many people went back. And I mean, we know based on the show that the people who stayed, even the people before they left, had a hard time there. But I wanted more from the women. I liked seeing them. I like seeing that they grew old, lived long lives. They seemed to be in a good place and happy people. But I didn't really know much. Like they didn't really get much into their stories.
Yeah, it would have been interesting just to have like a special or something about them to dig
It
more
would have
in.
been.
I felt like it wasn't like filler, but I appreciated the homage because even that little bit showed us that it didn't have to be dank and dire, right? It didn't have to be just utter depression. You see final scenes of Sunja selling kimchi on the street, and and you're like, oh God, what's gonna happen to her? And it gives you hope that these women persevered despite the circumstances and maybe the things and the hardships that they faced.
Yeah, and I think to me what stuck out for me in that, even though like you said it was short, and it really would have been nicer to have had a little longer special, like maybe something completely separate that Apple TV, well, if you all are listening, go ahead and make that happen. But a episode where we could just watch and learn about those women. But any which way, I was thoroughly interested in how old they all were. They had all lived very long lives in dealing with being a part of that time period, dealing with the stuff that they had to deal with and who they were now. So like I thought that was really cool too.
That Korean Japanese diet is no joke because they were like talking, I'm 95 years old. I'm like, ma'am, you look like you 70. What is going on? Like, I don't know what their version of black don't crack is, but they got it. I was like,
Did
whatever
you
y'all eating, I need to eat.
did you see the one lady who admitted that she was like a mean person? I thought that was funny. Did you guys remember her?
No, which one was
She
she?
was one who looked. I mean, they all looked good for their age, but she was like sitting at a table. I think she even had her hair dyed dark, and
Okay,
she
I
was
know
saying
who
that
you're talking
she'd
about.
been through a lot, and that's why I'm not a pleasant person. That's why I'm not a nice lady or something like that. She said. I was like, whoa, you seem like a nice lady.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I know exactly who you're talking about because I didn't hear those words. Maybe I was looking away or something like that, or read those words. But she said something about how like she didn't like people or trust them or something like that. And I was like, I could see that. I could see how, you go through some things and you see that. One of the things I noticed was what was behind them because I was trying to get whatever I could get, right? So there were the women talking, but then I was like, what are their living circumstances? Did she seem to be okay? She's in the kitchen. She has some nice dishes behind her, to live through those circumstances and then be in this space where you catch your cable TV as an older lady and you have your hobbies. And I'm like, to be where they are now, it's kind of like a different world, you know?
Yeah, I was kind of paying attention to the background, but not quite. I just noticed that it all looked pretty good. But I do plan to watch the episode again. I need to watch all of them. Maybe I'll just watch the whole season again, and see what their circumstances look like. But they all seem to be doing well and be, happy. So that was good to see.
And so with that, I really, like I said, I hope Apple TV is listening and that they go ahead and just make that a full episode with more details for us to watch. But they also posted on Twitter, they had done this thing where they asked the cast of the show to reflect on who the Sunja in their life was. And Sunja being basically a person from a previous generation who sacrificed and set a foundation for the people coming after them and who is the Sunja in your life. And so, they each member shared who they felt like that person was in their lives, and they asked us to share who was the Sunja in our life. So for me, because I really reflected on watching this show, looking at how these women, because again, not just Sunja, but that concept, looking at how these women that they showed at the end, how they lived and the things they had gone through to get to where they are. And even though we didn't get to meet their families, knowing that they probably have strong families now that they, have gone through these things and the way they had to stand up and live. So I reflected on who was that person for me. And in my life, that's my grandmother. She's passed, she's no longer with us. But my grandmother was born in 1919, and stuff that she had to go through and the things that she had to deal with, and just life as it was being a person in this country of African American descent, you know, those kinds of situations, her parents being actual sharecroppers and her grandmother being a slave, like listening to her stories, listening to the things she went through coming from Mississippi all the way here to no Arkansas. She's from Little Rock, Arkansas. Coming from Arkansas all the way here or to where we grew up. And just all of the stuff that she went through, and then our family, how my aunts function, which are her daughters, and the way my family moves. It was just, she is somebody who I have always respected. And watching this, I thought about her a lot. I thought about the things she went through. I thought about the stuff that she had dealt with. And it just, when they asked that and when I saw that, that resonated with me greatly because during watching the show, my grandmother popped up in my mind a few times.
I thought about it too, and I couldn't think of who the Sunja in my ancestry was. And then as I thought about it some more, I think that a lot of us don't know. Um, like I don't know my mother's whole story. I don't know my grandmother's whole stories. Solomon didn't even know Sunja's whole story and what she sacrificed. And I think that's common with a lot of people. Like we don't always know what not just the women in our lives, but our ancestors or recent ancestors did or went through to get us where they are now, and if they made deliberate decisions to get us where we are. Um, and I noticed that a lot of the people in the show, when they asked the cast members who it was, they all said mom or grandma because that's the closest to us. But there could be, someone who did something more significant to bring us where we are. And then I thought, well, maybe it doesn't have to be significant. I think about my kids and what I'm doing, and it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything special. We're just living life. But maybe there are decisions being made that's going to affect my grandkids in the future. So I appreciated the whole concept and them bringing it up. But when I started to think about it, I just started thinking in circles. Like, okay, like who's the son? Who is the Sunja in my life, and who's Sunja in my ancestry, and wanting to know more because I don't really know. I have this book that I bought some years ago called Conversations with My Grandmother, and I bought it because I thought my kids would interview um, their grandmother. Well, no, it wasn't that. It was we were going to interview Ron's grandmother when she was still alive, and we never really got through most of the book. So then I thought I'm going to buy that book to interview my mom to find out more about her life because I don't think we pass down. I mean, we'll hear stories here and there, but I don't think we really know what people before us go through and what they went through.
One of the great concepts that something else, her brother, he did these videos and he did one for my mom, and I feel like for my mom that's how come I she is that person, but my grandmother just really sticks it for me for them. But he did a video and he did these questions where he asked her about herself, asked her about her growing up, asked about, just different things. And so listening to her tell her story and talk about her past and that, and because it's on video and it's digital as well, like I love that because it's always something I can go back to and review, and then with the grandkids and other people, those kinds of things can be talked about as well. So like I love that.
Are
Yeah, I
you
mean, I
talking
think
to,
they're. Oh, go on, Natasha.
I was just going to ask Song Ray if you're talking about something else's brother did the video. Is that what you were talking
Yeah,
about?
he did it for my mom. He has one that he had done for their grandmother as well, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was your grandmother, right? Something else.
Yes.
He did one for our family too, but he interviewed me and my husband and our children. So that's something that our children can look back on, or maybe even our grandchildren can look back on. But something else, you go ahead and speak on your point.
I was just going to say it's interesting that frequently we have living history that we don't talk to. Even conversations with my mom sometimes, she'll say something and I'll be like, I didn't even know that about you. I low key think now, thinking about all this bits of information that she's told us, she was a hippie. She was a black hippie running off to California, and she never completely tells us everything at once. I think there's this place where if you don't actually ask your family members, especially your older family members, they don't answer. So if you don't ask them, hey, what happened here? Like you find out all kinds of stuff that you just did not know. And it's not like they're hiding it, it's just that they've forgotten it until you ask them. Or they
I
don't think
think
it's
I think
important
they
because they
forget it or
lived
they
it.
don't.
Remember No, but do you remember when we talked about the show My Liberation Notes and I said that old girl hadn't formulated that relationship with her parents? That is exactly what I was talking about. Sometimes it is a matter of just talking to them, asking questions. Just, if I come in, hey, mom, what about blah, 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 blah? I'm going to get some information that I might not have known or that might help explore, open them up and explore them in a new way for me than I really would have realized prior to. I don't know. Like, I just think that's something as children we have to be mindful of because are we telling our kids everything? No.
And I think that
You ask me something, I might answer you, but I'm not just coming out telling you all of my because I think I did some stuff that might have been ratchet. No, I don't want to tell you about that. But if you ask me a question, yeah, I might share. Okay, here's how this happened and here's how we got here. I don't know, but go
I
ahead.
think that's why I was so attracted to that book where it says conversation with my mom or grandma, because I think when you're living your life, it doesn't feel all that extraordinary to you. I don't feel the necessity to tell my kids about college. Like the things that we did in college. That I feel like maybe we did do some things that are extraordinary in college, but when they were happening, I don't know that they felt all that extraordinary. I don't know if Sunja really feels like what she did in her life to get her family where they were was extraordinary. The fact that she had to marry some guy because she was pregnant. She's not thinking I really did something here until it comes up and you really think about it. I think that we feel like maybe our lives are, I'm not going to say they're not worth telling, but they just don't feel all that special or extraordinary when it's happening.
I did feel, and we talked about the special they kind of did asking the question, I did feel that they were trying to pull at our heartstrings a little bit. So I was just being ornery about it because I was like, I don't want to think about that. But I'm, but I didn't want to be emotional. I didn't want any of that stuff. And honestly, if they're going to be doing this, I'm looking for the next one called "Who is the Solomon in your life? Who is the relative? Who's the fuck boy? Who's the one who's messing
Oh,
up?
not the fuck boy. Stop.
who who's the one who's the one, or not the fuck boy, the fuck up? Who's the one who has everything and the opportunity, and yet somehow they are going in the wrong direction? So I'm looking forward to them asking that question next.
Yes, maybe they will. To indulge the sarcasm is have a story for all these different characters. And there in one of the beginning scenes, in the beginning episodes, Koh Hansu said something to Sunja like, oh, what was it? It was like there are good and bad people everywhere, or something like that. And I think he was trying to explain to her, at least what I took from it was that people are people wherever you go, and you're going to find certain types of people wherever you go. Like some of these characters are kind of like universal. So hopefully that's a theme that they're going to keep touching on and make it more apparent to us when we realize that people are people. And the reason why I say that is because the Japanese may be demonized or looked at as being evil people by these Koreans, but there are Japanese people who are just like them, who have struggles in their lives, who have people who need to escape. So I don't know. I think it's humanizing. I think it's humanizing in a way to show that people are having similar experiences or similar histories or similar family structures.
I would agree. I agree totally. I like that concept and that thought, because I think that is pretty much the generalization for a lot of what we do is learning and realizing we're more alike than we're different.
Yeah, there's not always a clear good guy, bad guy, and everybody has life.
Right, because even if you want to like look at Koh Hansu, and clearly they're pushing us to demonize him, he is a loving father. He does love his son, right? He does touch that family's lives because he wants to do what he can. Maybe as a way to make up, who knows? But yeah, I think we have to remember that when we listen to stories and look at people, even the people close to us, no one is all good or all bad. There are shades of gray. It's a little bit harder to discern that and to delve deeply, but I think it's worth it so that we can forgive people when we can, and when we can understand people when we can. Is there anything else that you all want to add before we end this episode?
Well, all I wanted to say was this episode stressed me out, uh, and it's a very stressful way to. And maybe that's our cliffhanger: is all the stress that was in this episode. Maybe will give us some relief afterward.
Overall, I enjoyed this show. I feel like this is a they did a good job. They've captured me. They've kept me in. I'm interested in characters. I want to know what's going to happen further. I hope we don't have to wait like months and months on end for season 2 to get started, so that I don't lose interest, because that's the other problem with a lot of one of the things I've noted. Like, there's some shows that are doing a good job of it. Like, I know you're something else are watching, Marriage featuring Love and Divorce, and they've had several episodes or several seasons. I know that Penthouse had several seasons. People kept up with that. But like Yumi Cells, that's another one I did watch, and they're coming with a season 2 that's pretty, not too far off. But there have been shows where season 2 has been spoken on, but then, for instance, I think it's Arthendal. I might be saying that so wrong, but that Arthendal Chronicles that was on Netflix, season 2 is supposed to be occurring. But yeah, by the time it comes, I'm not sure if I'm even going to be remembering what took place. So, like, I hope they don't do that to us. I hope they push
So,
this on and we can get in.
Songray, in that clip where they were talking about who's the Sunja in your life, I saw
Mhm.
clips in that I didn't recognize. So I feel like maybe they've recorded some stuff already.
I hope so. Oh, I
I'm
hope
sure
so.
that they did because I mean, I understand this is an American production, but like typically these actors are used to doing 16 episodes. They're used to doing like way more. And if we're going over 4 seasons, there's nothing that says they didn't do everything. Like they didn't do all 32 episodes. And they're just going to divvy it out bit by bit. My concern is that they're going to take a year to put it out instead of like a couple of months or something like that. Who
That's what I'm
knows?
saying. That's
Um,
exactly what I'm saying. I hope they don't do that to us.
Right. And the most infamous drama that I can use as an example of getting that second season wrong is Love Alarm. Like all the momentum that they had and all the fans that they had for the first season of Love Alarm, and then they cut it off when they actually didn't need to. And then they put out the second season way later. I couldn't get into the
And it was
second
some
season.
bullshit. Excuse me.
Right, right. I was just like, y'all didn't need to be like this. So I understand that it's Apple Plus and that they move in a different way than your traditional K drama. Um, but I agree with both of you. Like, hopefully they move faster rather than slower. So there's one final thing I want to say if you all have nothing else to add. Nothing?
No, you go ahead. Something else.
Sungray?
No, that was it.
So I wanted to thank Natasha so much for joining us over these 8 episodes
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
because she's right. We have to give her her props, her daps, all of that because she made time for us in her busy schedule to not only watch the drama, which she was going to watch anyway, but to take time out to talk to us about it. We really enjoyed having you with us over these 8 episodes. If you ever want to watch other dramas and you love them and you want to talk about them, or you hate them and you want to talk about them, we are always
Amen ho.
here.
Amen ho.
Right. Even Ho, Gateway Drug, come on. Come on to the dark side. If you want to join us in any capacity, we'd appreciate it because you've been a dear friend for years and you're always a thoughtful person. You always delve into these topics. You always have interesting things to say. And so it was great having you join us. Thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed discussing the show with you guys. It was fun.
And also, thank you to those of you who have joined in, and even if it wasn't every single week, but joined in and listened in with us. We appreciate you for being here as well because you are more valuable than you could imagine.
Right, especially in that chat, because sometimes y'all were breaking it down, and I was like, "Oh, let me read as fast as I can." Okay, we are Black Girl Soul. This has been the final episode of Pachinko for this season. I am something else with,
Song Gray.
and we had Natasha join us. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Black Girl Soul. We enjoyed having you, and please subscribe, like, and follow our Facebook page, YouTube channel, Twitter page, Instagram page, and join our Facebook group. You can also find us on Patreon. Please look below for links. See you guys next week.